Hello students, I'm Dr. N. Kavita and you're watching LPV Chemistry Learn, Practice and Victory. Students, in today's session we are going to see what is water of crystallization. The water molecules get bound to the crystal lattice of the salt and forms water of crystallization. Let's get into the session to know more about it. I hope students you're subscribing my channel and you're sharing it with your friends. Do like it and thank you for watching. Students, we are going to see what is water of crystallization. Water of crystallization is certain salts, they form crystals by combining with definite proportion of water. Let's say copper sulfate. Copper sulfate dot 5H2O. This 5H2O is water of crystallization. You have total 5 water molecules combined to the copper sulfate, and the copper sulfate is now hydrated copper sulfate. Let's take copper sulfate 5H2O and heat it. It will become copper sulfate. This is blue in color and this becomes white in color. Plus water is expelled. So the color of the crystal is due to the formation of water of crystallization. So the blue vitriol, which is your copper sulfate 5H2O, gets its color due to the formation of water of crystallization. Now let's talk about the geometry shape of a crystal. The water, when is bound to the crystal lattice of a salt, it contributes to geometry of the crystal. Let's take copper sulfate. The copper sulfate has got 4 oxygen, 2 minus, and copper is 2 plus. This is anhydrous copper sulfate. Now what happens if the water molecules are bound and how it forms the blue vitriol? Let's try adding the water molecules. Now the water H2O, this oxygen having lone pair of electrons, one lone pair of electron, it donates to the copper. Now you will have that there are, you will see that there are four water molecules. Now let's see what are the 4 water molecules. Here you have H, O, H. So again lone pair of electrons. This is oxygen of the water molecule, and this is one more oxygen attached to the water molecule which donates its electron. This is plus 2. This is minus 2. Now let's take another water molecule which is HOH. Now this H, I'll put hydrogen here and oxygen here. So this H and this oxygen, they form hydrogen bonding. This hydrogen and this oxygen of sulfate forms hydrogen bonding. This hydrogen of water molecule which is attached to the copper forms hydrogen bonding. This forms hydrogen bonding with the with the hydrogen. So now you will have a bond of oxygen with hydrogen. This is oxygen with hydrogen, and these are the hydrogen bonding, hydrogen bonds. So hope you have understood how the water molecule forms the crystal inside the lattice. Let me take an example and explain you. Like, let us see, this is the crystal lattice. Now the crystal lattice has got some kind of gaps here. So now you take the water molecules and you fill the gaps. So this is how the water of crystallization takes place. If you're heating it, the water is expelled out. There are some examples for water of crystallization. The salts with water of crystallization. Copper sulfate 5H2O is known as blue vitriol. Ferrous sulfate 7H2O is known as green vitriol. Zinc sulfate 7H2O is known as white vitriol. And the magnesium sulfate is known as Epsom. Calcium sulfate 2H2O is gypsum. If this two water molecule is removed, then its property changes. Hence, you have to understand the importance of the water molecules. Water molecules plays a very important role. The example for salts with no water of crystallization, it is not that all salts have the water of crystallization. Let's take potassium nitrate, potassium chloride, sodium chloride, barium sulfate. There is no water of crystallization. I hope student, now you have understood what is water of crystallization and its importance in telling the geometry and the color. So the geometry of copper sulfate 5H2O, you can see here, it is octahedral, and octahedral geometry, and it is having D2sp3 hybridization. It is having a triclinic structure. So based upon the water of higher crystallization, you can very well talk about the geometry, shape, structure, hybridization. Formation of water molecule also gives color. Give the examples and give the definition as well. So we'll wind up with this session, student. Thanks a lot for being with me. Thank you.